Do you think there are things that people can do that like force them like naturally to embrace discomfort? I mean, I know one of the things that's helped me is like the cold plunge, sauna, like doing like intense workouts. Like there's a big trend for that now, and they're linking it to getting better at managing stress and being better in social settings. Like, have you found anything like that to be instrumental?
Yeah, those are proven to work. I mean, the first study on it managing mental health stress was like 1951. They were studying dudes in like Norway and Sweden where there's like saunas everywhere, and why they were so emotionally resilient to stress. And they were measuring it in combat and soldiers returning from combat, and how the saunas and cold water helped manage stress. And those are fantastic. Another one to add on to that is just getting into a practice of yoga, which a lot of people don't associate with that. But if you have a good yoga instructor, they're going to walk you through this little yoga session, and they're going to remind you, like when you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, they're going to tell you to smile. They're going to tell you to breathe slower and smile through that whole process. And it is fantastic at helping somebody manage just I'm mindful, I'm in the moment, I'm continuing to breathe through discomfort, and your brain starts learning these habits. So that is definitely, Doug, you hit it on the head right there.
I think that one of the things that people are really I think one of the things that people really struggle with is fear. And fear like really like can trap them from making a decision. Fear can trap them from going out and changing their life, and it can just be completely overwhelming. I know we've kind of touched on, some of this stuff already, but like if somebody came to you and they're like, "Hey, like Chase, like I want the bulletproof way to crush fear so that it doesn't like overpower me and prevent me from like living my best life." Like what can they do?
Well, the first way is to start identifying all of those fears, because every fear is like, I don't want to go out in public. I'm scared of going in public. Well, why? I have a fear of judgment. And then we go, why is that? And why is that? And you kind of get back to like, well, in middle school, I got made fun of, or in high school, this thing happened. And starting to get aware, the awareness is the fastest way to start getting some of these things unwired. And living in a way where you know that this is kind of a simulation, and you're kind of gamifying your own life by taking these notes every day. We're living in a way that I'm kind of in a video game, and I want to level up my character. I'm going to live in a way that is as fearless as possible. So to get out of those fears, the fastest way to do that is to really, really dig down on each one of those and figure out what it was. I have a system. Actually, if you do PDFs or show notes, I'll just send you the PDF and you can stick it in the description below the video, that all of our intelligence operators go through to assess their level of authority and what's really holding them back in their life. And it's free. It's called the Authority Assessment Inventory. And that's one of the fastest ways. And if you think, even if you're not religious, if there's any belief in your mind that says all of these ancient texts might contain some stuff that's really powerful and some really good wisdom, whether it's the teachings of Judaism or Christianity, or reading Hindu texts like the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads. And I mispronounced that. I have no doubt I mispronounced that. But all of these texts have these things in common. And even just zooming in on one of those, like the Bible, the most common phrase in the entire Bible is "do not fear." It's the most recurring phrase in the entire Bible. It's 365 times reminding you not to be afraid of anything. It's not a big deal. Nothing is a big deal. And it's every single ancient text that seems to reflect that there's some truth with a lowercase t in all of these. And there may not be one absolute truth, but I think that even Plato, before Christianity was even around, Plato wrote about this and wrote about the folly and waking up from kind of the simulation and realizing that it kind of is a game. With the Plato's allegory of the cave, wrote about this a long time ago, way before Christianity was around. But no matter what book you look at, if it's an ancient text and this ancient wisdom, every single thing that you see is telling us that we're all kind of like one thing. don't be scared of anything in your life, and just kind of go forward, and don't be a douchebag. We're all one thing, and don't be scared. That's kind of the main theme of all these books. And I think just starting to live your life that way is such a powerful move. And how can I be less fearful?
And having these people do this quiz to like figure out like what really holds them back, what have you found to be like the common thread of what typically holds people back from, you know, feeling confident, having authority, etc.?
It's going to be a deep answer. It's not like, oh, it's forgetting a post-it note on your window or something, but falls back to three things. And all three of those things are patterns that we develop in childhood. And if we can identify what those patterns are and how we kind of unconsciously stuffed them in this backpack and then carried them into adulthood without us really acknowledging it, without our awareness, then we have so much more control over our life. And those three things, if you imagine a triangle, and we call this the childhood development triangle, and I can send it to you if you want to like overlay it right now or put it down where people can grab it. It's, what did I do around the age of 8 to earn and keep friends, to feel safe, and to earn rewards from somebody. And the rewards are different. For some kids, it was like food because they had a rough life. And for other kids, it may have been praise for playing the violin really well. But what did I do for friends, safety, and rewards? And how did I avoid things to feel safe, to get friends, to get rewards? What did I avoid? And whatever those responses are, for 99% of people, those are the ways that we handle conflict as an adult. Those become the kind of fear of stepping out that we have as an adult, because it's a fear of loss. I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to lose safety. I'm going to lose rewards. Those three things. And they start when we're like 8 or 9 years old. And just kind of going back, and this quiz is going to help everybody that's listening right now with this. I can start seeing this pattern. Like, I'm a 44-year-old man now. I could take this quiz right now and be like, oh shit, this started in middle school. I'm still doing this one little thing from middle school, and just kind of dragging that file out of the cabinet and putting it out in the open gives me a lot more control over it because I'm conscious of these patterns. So now they become a choice of like, do I want to continue this or not? Before, we don't have a choice because we never opened that closet and never looked inside and pulled those files out.
What have you found to be the relationship between like dopamine and motivation? Because I think a lot of this comes down to people just don't feel motivated to change their life.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the dopamine map. It's like where the dopamine is coming from is a big deal. And they may not be setting the right goals, and the motivation might not be there. And here's the thing that nobody's going to say. You're going to see all these mindset coaches, therapists. You're going to see people saying you need to think differently. You need to set different goals. You need to wake up earlier in the morning, brush your teeth with your opposite hand, all of this little pieces of advice. And people try this for 11, 12, 15 years, and they're not really getting better. And finally, they go see somebody that tests their vitamin levels, that tests their neurotransmitter levels, and they discover, oh, I've just had a vitamin D deficiency this whole frickin' time. They were trying to like think their way out of a vitamin deficiency or a neurotransmitter problem, and they had a physiological problem, not a psychological problem. So that is a big, powerful thing. A doctor can order those tests, and man, vitamin B, vitamin D deficiencies can severely impact your life. And then you're going to, everybody you see is going to say, oh, well, you need to think more positive. You need to think differently. You might have a hormonal neurotransmitter or vitamin imbalance that's just ruining your life. The good news, if that's true, is it's a very, very easy solution 99% of the time.
Well, but I think like from the action perspective and behavior perspective, I think there needs to be a strong focus, in my opinion, on like small wins for people when they're looking to change their life. Because what happens is we live in this world of instant gratification where we want to achieve these big things in an hour, when really it's just compounding small wins to achieve that big thing. I would love to hear your perspective on it as far as behavior. Like, what is the importance of just doing the right thing every day and having that lead up to something major?
Yeah, and I think all the old coaches back in the day would call this right action. Am I doing the right action? And that's the same with so many people now get upset and they kind of get into a little emotional rut because they're so used to things being quick. They're kind of thinking, I want the Ozempic version of discipline. Give me the Ozempic so I can do X. And not everything has that. And some things just take time. And those small wins are so critically important. But what's more important is my human brain is not fully in charge of all of this. It's that mammal. So always think of how would Caesar Milan handle this shit? So if I have a problem with a dog's motivation, I need four things to lead a mammalian brain, whether it's a human mammalian brain, a dolphin, or a dog. It's focus. Where is all my focus going? What are the sources of authority? And then tribe and emotion. Focus, authority, tribe, emotion. It spells out fate, and it is your fate for sure. So just figuring that stuff out. So how can I change the mammalian focus? So if I have affirmations on my wall, or I have a calendar that has X's on it every time I work out, or every time I get into ketosis, or whatever somebody's trying to do, your dog doesn't understand that. And that's the big piece that everybody seems to be missing. A dog can't see that. Your mammalian brain isn't excited about a black and white thing on the wall with a bunch of X's on it, unless you have this tremendous emotional attachment to it. So that's where like these vision boards come in, who we're hanging out with, who we're spending time with, why that tribe is so critically important. And all of these elements of our life, like how could I show my goals to my dog? How would I make my dog happy that they're doing the right thing? And do those things for yourself. I'm going to go on a run, and then I'm going to celebrate with something. If I'm setting goals, I'm going to put thousands of pictures associated with each goal so that I can see images, so that the mammalian brain starts to understand the direction. So it's not human going this direction and mammalian brain doesn't know the human wants to go this direction. So getting that mammalian brain on board is so critically important.
So say I hired you and I said, you know what, like Chase, like I have been struggling with discipline, procrastination for years, and I just can't seem to figure it out. I got my dopamine chart here, and it's like I'm doing all the wrong habits. How can I quickly like start to unlearn some of these bad habits and then be able to build discipline and stay consistent even when I don't feel like it?
So one of the biggest mistakes that I see clients making. So if you're my client here and I'm talking to you and this is our thing here, there was a mistake in your language that I hear from so many people, if you don't mind me calling you out.
Of course.
You said discipline to do all of these things that I don't want to do. A lot of people see people eating healthy and going to the gym, maybe eating a keto diet or something like that. And they're doing these things all the time. Maybe they're writing a book and they're disciplined about writing the book. But our mind says, I wish I had that level of discipline. Or we internally think they're so disciplined about that. Nothing of what you're seeing is discipline. That guy who goes to the gym every day, none of that is discipline. It's routine. The discipline was there when the habit was started only. So it's very important that we understand discipline's a finite resource. So let's start one habit at a time. So we're setting habits instead of goals. And the discipline is we only need like a little shot glass full of discipline to kick off a habit. And most people have these 19 goals, like they're sitting there eating hot dogs every day and they're surfing social media for 18 hours a day. They have this really horrible lifestyle. And they're like, you know what? In 6 weeks, I'm going to be muscular, fit, thin, successful, rich, good looking, and have extremely white teeth. So you need try to do one discipline habit formation at a time. And the fastest discipline thing that kind of sprouts to rewards in every other area of life is I'm going to use this little shot glass of discipline to start forming a habit of taking care of my future self. If I can do that, if that becomes a habit, everything benefits. Every single aspect of my life starts changing because I'm using my discipline to force this one thing into a habit for, like, I think it's 64 days it takes to set a habit, and whatever number somebody says is wrong. Some of them are useful, but it's probably around that time. I'm going to use that little shot glass of discipline to do that. So now, if I have a habit of prioritizing my future self, every other habit that I want to form starts getting easier because I have an emotional relationship with that future version of me. And how do I get the mammalian brain involved? You download that app on your phone that's like Make Me Look Old, or I think it's called Face App. And it makes you like 95 years old. You can take a selfie with it and it makes you super old. Print those out on a nice color printer and put it on your fridge. Put it next to your bed. Put it in your office where you're going to see it. So we don't really prioritize our future self because we never met them. We have no relationship to our future self. So this helps that mammalian brain start prioritizing and connecting with that longer vision, that older version of ourself.
We've talked quite a bit about self-awareness and understanding some of the things in our life that might be limiting us, whether it be like, how we show up in situations, our environment, our relationship with dopamine, etc. And you talked about, like, you kind of called me out and said the number one mistake that, you see people make is that they think that, you said to get people to do things they don't necessarily want to do. In that same conversation, is there anything that you see, like right off the bat, common thread that you help people kind of stop the bleeding, where you're like, all right, generally speaking, there's like 3 or 4 or 5 things that you see most people do time and time again that's destroying their focus and their inability to reach their goals?
Yes. So we'll go through I have a separate little inventory I walk each of my clients through. And I want to identify where you're feeling discomfort in your life. So it's social settings and all this other stuff. And then I'm going to identify where you seek comfort, like Instagram, TikTok, alcohol, all of these things in your life. And we're going to start making it more uncomfortable in those areas and increasing the comfort in the other areas. So much of this stuff comes down to being comfortable. So I'm seeking comfort like most people are seeking comfort in video games, TV, Netflix, binging, TikTok, or whatever. And that's more acting as an anesthetic. So I want to find out where all of these little situations, we have this long questionnaire we go through, but essentially, what are all these little scenarios where I experience some kind of discomfort? Maybe when I go to the bank, when I log in and check my account, when I have to speak on stage, when I have to do a pitch, all of these other things. And then where am I seeking comfort? And then, so this is kind of like a dopamine map, except it's stress versus anesthetic is really what we're finding out here. So I'm going to pull out of the anesthetic and start pulling some of that onto the stress side. And you'd be wildly surprised at how fast those things can kind of reverse. So where are we seeking comfort? And I can start pulling away from that, and it gives more energy, more discipline, more willpower to all of these other things, and start. It is such a rapid change. I've seen people change in as little as like a week and a half, 2 weeks, just from mapping this out and getting super raw and real on a lot of this stuff. And hypnosis is a fast way to do that, and a fast way to really make that change that you were asking about.